Welcome to Retrologic. I'm Dan Caparello here with John Cummins. And this week we've got very special guest Seth from the All N, a Nintendo podcast. And we're going to talk about some Sega Saturn. We're going to talk about Zombies Ate My Neighbors. I was going to say Plants vs. Zombies, but that's certainly not what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. And we have a neat question of the week from our community. So we have all that. We have more stuff. And before I get too far, Retrologic isn't just a podcast. It's also a game store that you can visit at Retrologic.games. You can check out our inventory of cleaned, tested, and authentic retro games. You can buy some of it. It's always free shipping. It comes right from my house. And I just love packing up and shipping stuff out. So help me do more of what I love and go buy something from my store. Seth.
Yes, sir.
Hey, dude. Welcome to the show. How are things doing?
Thanks, man. No, it's great. I am so stoked to be here. Huge fan of you guys, and just kind of recently got more serious into the collecting thing. I blame you, by the way, for that. So
super not sorry for that, by the way.
Because I would listen to you guys. I'm like, man, Dan and John always have these really cool pickups and whatnot. I've always been kind of a casual collector, but it's all right, now I need to start getting more hardcore into it in the worst possible time to do it. So,
oof.
Everything
is got a bit expensive lately. Yeah, totally. Well, good. Well, we're super glad to have you. Tell us a little bit about your podcast, All In, a Nintendo podcast. How long you guys been going, and what's your deal?
Yeah, so we've been going for actually almost a year now. We're just a few weeks shy of our first anniversary.
Congrats.
Nice. Thanks. And we're a weekly Nintendo variety show is what we call ourselves. And what that means, that's really just the best word we've been able to come up with for it. And really what that means is we have these kind of 4 segments that kind of give you a bit of variety, the different facets of being a Nintendo fan. So we cover the weekly news, just like any good podcast. We have a indie showcase where we cover an indie game every week. We sometimes interview indie devs on that. We just recently interviewed the developers behind Horus. Every week we've got a top 5 that we bring to the show, and then we have kind of a revolving 4th segment every week that could be anything from a retrospective to a review to a guest interview. So we try to keep it fresh every week, and new episodes every Saturday, and we've been doing it for about a year now. We're having a ton of fun.
That's great. Well, and you guys aren't afraid to go long, so I like that.
Yeah.
No.
It's quite the listen, usually.
Yeah, we have a tendency. We know how to talk, that's for sure. And just, when you have a show with so many segments too, it tends to be a meaty experience. And we do invite people. We put timestamps and everything, so we invite people to jump around if they want to. If like Dan, we're actually having you this week on the show, and if somebody
Yes.
Retrologic fan wants to pop in and listen to Dan's Pokemon Snap review and everything, they can do that. We invite them to do that. So we try to have a little variety for everybody.
That's right. I'm really excited about being on this week. That's going to be really fun.
Can't wait.
Been loving Pokemon Snap, so I can't wait to gush about it.
Yeah, of course.
Sweet. So John, you are also here. And how's your week been? Did you get to play anything this week, my friend?
I played a little bit more than I normally get to play. Still super busy with work and always kids. But I squeeze in a little bit of time here and there, which I can talk about some more whenever we get to what we've been playing. But yeah, everything's going good here, man.
Totally. Good. Well, let's do it. Let's talk about what we've been playing. As Seth, as our guest, we're going to let you go first. We're going to talk about what you bought, what you played this week, and you can go a little bit detail about how things are going in that game or something special about the game you bought. Go ahead.
Yeah, gotcha.
Take it away.
So like I said, I just started kind of getting into the collecting scene. Like I said, I've been a collector for a while. You can't see it in my backdrop right now because I'm in my barren office. My wife and I recently moved into a new house. My office isn't set up yet, but I have a complete Amiibo collection. And
Wow.
I'm a psycho about Amiibo. And I've been collecting games for a little while, but I've gotten really into kind of, I got this wild hair to just get into like GBA, GameCube era stuff, which is kind of like just ridiculously expensive now.
You just missed it by like a couple of years.
I know. That's me for you. That's very classic me there. It came about because I was going through some of my boxes in my office, and I found my old Zelda edition GBA SP, and I was like, man, like it'd be really cool to get some of these games back, you know? So I just picked up this week, I've got it right here actually, the WarioWare complete in box for GBA. It's beautiful, and I'm very happy to have that.
I love that game.
My favorite GBA game by far. I love that game so much.
The GameCube component to that game, WarioWare Inc., probably one of my favorite party games on the GameCube.
So good, man. It's so good. I love that game so much. So I'm really, really happy to have that in the collection. I also just picked up, it hasn't arrived yet, but I picked up Twilight Princess complete in box for GameCube, and the Wii version as well, which I was telling you, Dan, I can't believe how affordable Wii games still are. So that was a nice surprise.
Yeah. Lots of Wii games available.
Yeah, that's true.
There's just a ton of them out there too, so that helps.
Yeah, the GameCube Twilight Princess complete in box was not cheap, but I was able to get it down a little bit, so that was nice. And then I'm talking to a guy right now trying to get Monkey Ball 2 complete, and I'm trying to get Thousand Year Door complete right now. So we'll see how that goes. Trying to get it for a little bit cheaper than what I'm seeing it for, if I can help it. So we'll see.
Yep.
But in terms of playing stuff, I'm still doing the Monster Hunter Rise thing. Still very much into that game. I've put like 80 plus hours into it now somehow. 80 hours has manifested itself somehow along the way. And I'm digging it, having a good time with that. I've kind of gotten into the series recently with World, and now Rise has been a lot of fun. My co-host Eric and I have been playing a ton of that together. We got a game from our friends at Limited Run, Save Me Mr. Tako Definitive Edition, which just came out. They very graciously gave us early access to that, and we have been playing the mess out of that. That's a really cool little indie game that's kind of got this like Game Boy flair to it. And it's really legit, actually. It's like a Kirby-style platformer, but way more difficult, with probably the most faithful Game Boy era aesthetic I've ever seen.
That's cool.
It's a really cool game.
It's got the hats, doesn't it, where you change out hats to get abilities?
Yes.
You can only get them in certain places, and you have to leave them whenever you...
You can have them kind of like on reserve. You can have a reserve hat. And something I should mention is that this is the definitive edition that just came out. So the developer actually went back and changed a lot of stuff. Like it really is kind of a quite different version of the game. There was this like fallout between the original publisher, Nicholas, and he partnered with LRG to release this definitive edition and changed a ton of stuff about the game. You know, addressing complaints and whatnot. So that's been really cool, and the game's way longer than I thought it would be. So that was a nice surprise.
That sounds right up my alley. I might have to check that one out.
You might like it, man.
Cool.
Yeah, like I said, that Game Boy aesthetic is like so effective. I mean, he just totally nailed that. I mean, it is one of the most faithful. I mean, it literally feels like you're playing a Game Boy game in all the best ways. Difficult too, like nice and challenging. So
does it feel like Minute?
You know, we love Minute. We actually covered Minute recently in an indie showcase. I love that
awesome.
game.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, Minute is like it's kind of like a Zelda-like thing, but in the way that Minute is faithful to the era that it's emulating, Mr. Tako is as well, like very faithful. Nice. So highly recommend checking that out. I think it's like $10 or $15 on the eShop.
Totally worth it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And then of course, new Pokemon Snap. That's been the big one, right? I mean, I've been playing just the mess out of that game. So I finally rolled credits on it last night, and
no spoilers yet. I'm
no
not
spoilers.
Don't
No
spoil my
spoilers.
Snap.
Yeah.
Can
But,
you spoil
I loved
Pokemon
it.
Snap?
Oh yes.
I took a
yeah.
picture of the Charizard. You'll never believe it.
You know, they do a really cool thing actually with this one, where because folks can obviously upload their photos online, and it's cool because they block out photos of Pokemon that you haven't encountered yet, which is nice. Yeah, so that I appreciated that, but I love it, man. I absolutely love that game. I'm having a blast with that, and there's so much more. Like, you can blitz through that game, and that's fine, but there's just so much to do. I mean, they've made this game so much more in depth than the original, and I love it. It's like the perfect sequel.
I have yet to get to play it yet. Like, mine came in the mail and disappeared as soon as it made it. Like, I didn't even see it. My kids have been playing it, and so yeah, I won't be able to give feedback yet for a while.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's about it for me, man.
Good deal. Yeah, I won't go into too depth about my playing of Pokemon Snap here, but we'll do a lot more of that on next week's All In with you. So
Yeah, man.
Sweet. Good deal. Okay, John, tell me, you've got another pretty long list here, and I'm excited to hear about it. Let's do it.
I've got envy here, man.
Yeah.
So, well, yeah, I kind of been getting pretty good at flipping some games enough on Mercari to be able to come back and buy some of my things that I've sold in the past back. And
I blame myself. I blame myself for getting everybody into doing that. I blame myself.
Yeah,
it's my fault.
I think we've
a good thing, though.
Yeah, we've upset Tim from the Nintendo dads because yeah, he's like, you guys are part of the problem. Why I can't buy any cheap games right now.
We're not scalping Tim.
Yeah, I know. It cracks me up. I was like, no, it's just you find a good deal and then you sell at the going rate of what it's going for right now. Which,
it's not. Yeah, exactly.
I try to cut deals to our inside group. I always try to throw things that I think that somebody might be interested in the group on there early and say, hey, you guys get it at this price. It'll be more later when I actually throw it up somewhere. And
that's what the Discord's for. That's incentive for you listener to join the Discord.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
Because
yeah,
you can get some deals on some retro games.
But yes, first game on the list is Super Mario Strikers, which was one of my favorite sports games from the GameCube era.
Love it.
Man, I played through this game over and over. It was like one of the only games I had for a little while on it, with one of my many GameCubes that I'd had throughout time. And so yeah, I've been eyeballing them, and they just kept going up. So I was like, well, I need to buy one now before they're $200. Stuff isn't slowing down. Which comes to my next game, Wario World for the GameCube, is the same way. Kind of been eyeballing that one for quite a while, and it just keeps going up as well. So I was like, well, it's time to pull the trigger, and because this is one I actually haven't got to play yet. So I missed this game originally on GameCube, so I look forward to finding some time to pop this one in and play it eventually, because I've played through most of the other Wario Land games. I think the only one I haven't really made it all the way through is the one on Virtual Boy, and I've been doing that slowly as I can handle the power of the Virtual Boy blinding myself as I play through it. Let's see. I also picked up Dragon Quest V for the DS. This is one that I've been trying to get for a very long time, and I finally...
Yeah, you have, man.
Finally caught a deal on it where I got it for less than $100. So
sweet.
Nice.
That's a good deal. A major... Yeah. I passed up on one at the local... I don't know, it's probably been 6 months ago, and I've been kicking myself ever since. I had bought something else there that was pretty valuable at the time, so I was like, well, I probably ought to pass on that, and I'll come back around to it. And then they just like skyrocketed after that. So
the DS is crazy right now, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it really is.
RPGs on the DS are just killer in price right now, because I just recently picked up Chrono Trigger, and it was outrageous. And that's one that I had stolen out of my car previously. That's how I lost my original copy, and so I've finally got to put that back in the collection not too long ago, a couple weeks. Let's see. What else is on here? Little Nemo for the NES. Dreamland.
Nice.
It's a good game.
Yeah, no, I caught the bug that was going around the Discord. Everybody was talking about it, and I was like, man, I haven't played that game since it released. I was like, I need to go
Who
back
was saying?
and get that.
Was it Liam who was saying he didn't even know it was a movie?
Yeah.
Was that LDP?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, remember...
He was like, wait, there's a movie for that? And somebody posted the entire movie link from YouTube on here. He was like, oh, okay.
That's
I had to
funny.
go back and do research on that because I thought the movie had came out first. Like, I remember seeing the movie first, but it's because I didn't have the game right away. And I did watch the movie first and then got the game. So, but yeah, no, it's a fantastic game. I popped it in and played about, I played through the first level and then a little bit into the second level. And just, it's amazing. Like, it's truly a Capcom game where, like, it's been very well, every little detail is put into it. Like, just the different power-ups you get, like taking over the animals with the candy. It's just spot on. It's great.
Do you see that Little Nemo Kickstarter that they did like a month or two ago?
I missed it, but there was
Me too.
people
I
in
missed
it
Discord
too.
talking about it. So I'm probably going to go back and I'll probably keep an eye on that one to come out for release and probably pick it up when it does.
Yeah.
I think it was already successfully kickstarted, I believe.
It was.
Yeah, it's successful.
Yep. So whenever that one eventually comes out, I'll have to pick up a copy of that because the first game is really good. Let's see. Picked up this was just a random pickup. It caught my eye at the store, but I got a Xenoblade Chronicles for the Wii. Actually, I didn't own the original version of it. So I've got it on the 3DS and the Switch. I was like, well, this one's doing the opposite. It's coming down in price now.
Really?
You know, thanks to the Switch.
Well, because of all the re-releases.
Yeah, it
Makes sense.
used to be a $70 Wii game all day for a complete version. And then the definitive edition came out and sold so well that now everyone's just offing their copies, I guess, of the Wii one. So you can get it as cheap as like $30 right now.
Man, I remember I worked at GameStop for like 7 years, and I was one of the managers there, and I remember that game was a situation where they removed the new SKU and moved it to used, like pre-owned only, and we had all of these still sealed copies of that game. And this happened many times, but we had them still sealed, but they were, for the used price. So
Yeah, I think my brother was a manager at that point too and did the same thing.
You didn't grab one either, did you?
I did grab one. I don't know if I still have it somewhere in a box or something like that, but I grabbed one at that time and opened it and played it, of course. But
well, I don't even know.
You better
that
check all.
I don't know that
Seth, you better
sealed
check all
is-
your boxes before you start buying more games.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sounds like you dig some stuff up.
I definitely do have some things. I dug up my I have a beautiful copy of Wind Waker that I got out of that same box my GBA was in. But yeah, I just got to go through and just finally unpack this office, man. It's been like a beast looming over me.
You got to make it look like me and John's office.
Yes, yes.
Too much
Just
stuff.
too much stuff. Yeah.
Let's see here.
What else you got, John?
grabbed Samba de Amigo for the Wii.
That's
Nice.
a great game.
Dirt cheap. It was like $3.
Yeah,
like,
that's
all right, I'll
cheap
take
and
that.
solid. If you like rhythm games, highly recommend Samba de Amigo.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I really kind of picked it up with my daughter in mind because she likes that kind of stuff, and she's been playing the Wii a little bit here and there again.
One of the better, because like, you know how the Wii won't always trigger things? Just decides when it wants to and when it doesn't sometimes.
Right.
I never had that problem with Samba de Amigo. I don't know why.
I don't
just-
think
maybe
the
it
game
just
cares that much.
No, they simplified all the movements, so it's really
Yeah.
easy for it to know where you are. I like it a lot.
So yeah, picked that one up, and I also grabbed Metroid for the GBA. It's the NES Classic Series edition.
Yeah, right on.
I've slowly been picking up those here and there when I see them. The ones I don't have, I've got quite a few of them now. I'm not going to be as crazy as the other John and have like complete inbox versions of all 12 of them or whatever, but just as I see them, they're nice little pickups. Play some of those on the handheld. And then last but not least, I finally received my lot that had that NES and that Model 1 Sega Genesis in it.
Yeah, the quote-unquote broken ones.
Well, the seller said that he wasn't able to test them, but he said by looking at them, they were more than likely not operational, which you know as well as I do. They'll pull a Nintendo, Nintendo Entertainment System out of the swamp, and it will still fire up most of the time if you clean them up. And you can't kill those things; they're tanks. So, just got it home. He didn't have the power supply for it or a way to hook it up to a TV, so he had no idea. So I get it in. I've got everything for it. Hook it up. It fires right up. I'm playing Little Nemo in like 5 seconds.
It's a great
So
price.
I actually played like an hour of that on there. I was just testing the unit out and ended up playing an hour of that game on it. And I've got a Model 2 Genesis, so I don't have the correct power supply or AV cable to test that one out yet. So I had to purchase those items. I found
the Genesis 1?
Yes.
Well, your NES power and AV will work on that. You can use those same cables on a Genesis 1 and an NES.
I don't have an RF cable for my NES. I use a component.
John, you don't have an RF cable in your house? You retro collector?
I don't need. Why would I need one?
To test systems, dude.
Well, this is the first time I've come across this. I usually have AV cables I actually have component cables for most things.
If you've been buying lots, somebody gave you an RF at some point. There's got to be one in the bottom of a box under your desk, hidden behind a couch somewhere.
I think I had the RF for because I've had 2 Model 2s now, and I think that I put the RF in the box with the Model 2 complete in box that I had that I sold off. So that's probably where that went. But
I forgive you. No. I just have a ton of them, so I'm just weirded out that you have none.
Well, we're going to have to make some trades because I have like 5 NES power supplies.
All right. Okay.
sitting around here, and I only have 4 NESs, so I don't have enough need for that. But no, I didn't know that the NES power supply worked exactly because isn't the NES power supply is actually is it a DC power supply that gets converted to AC power inside the unit? And I believe the Genesis is just a strictly DC or AC. It's one or the other.
Oh, I'm not sure.
I don't want to burn out my unit if I can avoid it.
I wouldn't do it long
NES
term.
is different.
Yeah,
yes.
Right.
It's not a long term solution at all, but it will power on if you need it to.
I know that
I don't have an original power supply for my TurboGrafx, but the Genesis 1 / Master System power supply works. I don't want to use it for long term, but I do it to play 5-minute sessions of Dragon Spirit. So
I know that they're both 9-volt, but I know for sure that the NES has a converter inside of it that goes from DC to AC or AC to DC, one or the other. I can't remember which way the current is being converted in, but I know that the Sega is just it uses whatever version of the current that it gets. So I know that long term you don't want to. I think it's that you don't want to use the NES power supply on a Genesis, but you can use the Genesis power supply on the NES because it doesn't care; it's going to convert anyway.
Right.
But anyway, got those in. The NES works fine, so it'll be going up for sale here soon. And then if I'm kind of torn, if the Model 1 works, I might sell my Model 2, or I might just keep both of them because the NES that I sell will cover the cost of the lot. I got the thing like dirt cheap because the guy I love finding these lots, and you look at what else they have sold, and it's like clothes, or like you can tell that they're not a person that would really dig in and really know the problems of the consoles or anything. So I did the same thing with the Game Boys that I bought. I bought them off somebody that has been selling nothing but clothes, and they're like, "Oh, well, it didn't power on when I put batteries in it." And it's like, as well as I do what the problem is with that. Easy to fix. So
it's the dream,
buy that.
right?
Yeah, you buy it dirt cheap, and then you replace the things that need to be replaced, and now you got working Game Boys. So, but yeah, that's what I've purchased. And like I said, I played a little bit of Little Nemo. I tried out a demo for King of Seas on the Switch. It's just one I've been looking at coming to the Switch for a little while. They actually put out a demo, so it doesn't happen super often. So I checked it out. It's not bad. It's definitely got a little bit of a mobile game feel to it, but it's really hard to find like good pirate simulation games like since Sid Meier. They always just seem to be lacking a little bit. It seems like. So I tried that out, and then the last thing I've been playing a little bit of Pokemon Black. I think it was I acquired Black a couple weeks ago with Soul Silver. It was part of a random deal that I got. So now I have Black and White. So now my son and I are going to play that generation of Pokemon together. It's one I didn't have originally. Yeah.
That's
that
awesome.
was totally by accident that I got Black. Like, I was only interested in Soul Silver, and he's like, "Oh, I've got this too. I'll throw it in." I was like, "Oh, sweet." So yeah, we're gonna play through those together, and hopefully have a little more playing time than usual to try to get through those.
Sweet, dude. Good deal.
Yep. All right, man. What have you been playing?
Right. Well, I was on vacation last week, which, you would think that means like, oh, you got a ton of time to play. But no, me and my wife and my 3 kids were together the whole time. So that there's no dad time to play video games. I'm just watching kids. So
there's no adult time to play video games. There's
there is no adult time. Yeah, it's just there's constant needs, and there's no breaks. So but I did squeeze in as much Pokemon Snap time as I could. That's pretty much what I've been playing, because I was gone, so it's not like I could jump in here and play Gotcha Force or whatever.
Right.
And so when I got back, I had a couple packages. Got a non-broken version of Hydro Thunder. If you don't know what happened, I had a copy of Hydro Thunder that I got from a crazy good Dreamcast lot from Savers. That is the original pressing of Hydro Thunder on the Dreamcast, and like something like half of those discs just don't work. The original pressing of Hydro Thunder. And
is
it
that
was
something where that's more valuable because it doesn't work?
I haven't looked it up. I honestly I tried to look it up and honestly couldn't find anything for sale that's like first print, like defective version of Hydro Thunder. I think people try it, it doesn't work, and they throw it out. So
I didn't know if it was like,
should I put it up for $5,000 and just see if somebody bites? I don't know.
It's like currency that's messed up or stamps that are misprinted. Like, those things are valuable. So I didn't know if it was an instance like that where it's like, oh, this is a first print that doesn't play. It's
well, and valuable. I mean, it's a mint copy too, which is how I know it's got to be the disc, because it's just it'll try to boot up and then it'll just go back to the menu, and I'm like,
what's the deal with that?
I looked, and your copy was exactly like mine, because you said something about it being a blue disc and the artwork and everything's the same. So I was like, well, mine works and it looks the same as yours. So
yeah, it was about half the printings just were bad printings, and so they sold them, and then pretty quickly they were like, oh, recall those, do a new print, and all the new prints have a little it looks like a sticker that says hot new on it, and the disc is orange instead of blue. So it's pretty easy to spot one that will work versus one that has a 50-50 shot.
Right.
I got my new disc in. I'm going to test it out here and play some Hydro Thunder. Finally, very excited, because Hydro Thunder is just one of my favorite racing games of all time. Just one of my favorite arcade games.
Great game.
I love that game.
Man, I don't know how that game did not get a sequel. There should have totally been a sequel for that game.
I know. Maybe, especially, I don't know.
That arcade racers of that time were all getting sequels. You had Cruising the World and Exotica and things like that, and it's in the same nature. It's even the same.
Did Midway do a lot of sequels though? I'm trying to think if Midway did I
was going to say, I don't think so.
Hydro Thunder. That was my thing. Is they did the trucking game, and they did another an Off-Road Thunder game, but they never did Hydro. They never did sequels to them. They just kind of did spin-offs. So
could be it.
I also got IKEA shelves. So what these are the it looks like this. I'm going to show you guys, but you can't see it listening at home. And all it does is it's like a C shape, and you turn it sideways, and you sit it on your Kallax IKEA shelf, and it cuts the shelf in half. So now, on my 8-shelf IKEA Kallax shelf, I can fit 16 consoles instead of 8.
Nice.
So I'm going to paint them black, and they have a nice floral pattern on the bottom, so that's nice for ventilation.
You could fit 0 PS5s or Series X's on your
right
IKEA shelves.
No, I don't want either of those consoles. But you know what? Do you know what else will not fit horizontally on this shelf? Is a version 1 Sega Master System. And I was complaining so hard on Twitter about this. And one other guy was like, yeah, this is why my version 2 Master System is out on the shelf and my version 1 is in storage. Because I can't display it. It's like...
Just put it on top.
Wow. So annoying. Because I love that console, you know? But what am I going to do? Put it up sideways? That's what I'm going to have to do. It's dumb. Ridiculous. I might just sell it and get a version 2, honestly. Because that's really just going to piss me off every time I try to play it.
It'll drive you crazy.
You should have bought the one I had. It was like mint.
I didn't even know you had that. Version 2?
I showed it to you. I had the one that was a complete in box. It was like all there and nice and like brand new. Had all the manuals and it was super
John,
sweet.
Okay, let's go back in time and we'll make a deal. And that's been pretty much it. Been loving Pokemon Snap. I'm an OG Pokemon fan since Red and Blue. And we will talk more about that on Seth's podcast. So stay tuned for that on a different feed. And that's that. So why don't we jump into our little game here called The Price is Retro, featuring Seth. Okay, so if this is your first time listening or you don't know how to play, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to list off a series of games, 4 or 5 games, and you're going to guess how much all of the games together are worth, what the lot is worth. And we're all going to guess, and whoever gets the closest to that price wins. That's how the game is played. And then we're going to add up all the scores once all 3 of us have gone with our lists, and we'll see who is the closest. And Seth, so far, Nick Metzger over from the Game Pass News podcast, he's the reigning champ for the worst score a guest has had on this game. So let's see if you can beat it.
I'm about to say I'm going after Nick's crown there because I'm going to be horrible at this, you guys. It's going to be bad.
Awesome. Well, and I made sure to make it extra hard for you this week. So.
Awesome.
Oh yeah.
So Seth, do you want to go ahead and do your list first?
Sure. Sure.
And
Yeah.
just so that you have like a good way to play. I have like a notepad open, and while you're listing games, I'll be like typing in a price, like it's probably this, and then I'll add up those at the end because I can't keep more than one game in my head at a time. So that's just how I like to play. John just comes and wings it, and he wins all the time. So maybe don't take my advice, but you know how
This is a calculator right here. I don't need paper.
Oh, dude, yeah, he's a freaking engineer or something. It's crazy.
That's fair.
I'm the creative of the group, so I get lucky. That's what I do. All right, so go ahead, Seth. Start off with your first game.
Okay, so constructing this list in traditional Retrologic fashion, there is a theme. It's a very nerdy theme. I'll be very impressed if anybody gets it off the jump. But the first game on my list is Mario Party, the first one for the N64 loose. Okay. And then the second game is Xenogears for the PS1, the greatest hits version, complete in box.
Greatest hits Xenogears for the PlayStation.
Yes. Complete in box on that one. Then we've got Shadow Hearts Covenant, complete in box for the PS2.
I don't even know what that is. Shadow Hearts Covenant. Can I get a genre on that?
It's a JRPG. You could say that.
Okay. All right. That's our only lifeline, by the way. What's the genre?
Yeah, you could say that. And then the last one I've got here is Soul Sacrifice Loose for the Vita.
Why do you have to do PlayStation stuff? I don't know PlayStation stuff.
Can I
get a genre on that one too?
So Soul Sacrifice is an action RPG.
Okay. All right, fine. Okay, John, do you have a
style?
Do you have a number, John?
Yeah, I've got an idea. I think I'm going to go with 180.
Okay. I had 200 written down here. So those are our guesses. John, you're going to type those in.
Yep, I'm there.
And then Seth, go ahead and give us your actual retail price.
For the whole lot?
The whole lot.
Whole lot is $257.67.
Ha-ha.
Got me.
Yes.
Sunk my battleship.
By 20 points. Sweet. Go ahead and list off each individual game's price too, Seth.
Yeah, so for the Mario Party N64 loose, that was $41.04.
Like the one that I knew. Good.
And then for the Xenogears Greatest Hits complete in box, that was $85.95.
Okay.
Then Shadow Hearts is the big one here. That was $116.44.
That's the one I missed on. Jeez.
Yeah, I was like 50 on that one. I didn't even know.
PS2, man.
Yeah. And then Soul Sacrifice loose was only $14.24.
Oh. So I kind of made up for my loss of
PS2 one, man. PS2 games are like Xbox games. There's like a handful of them that are worth more than $10.
Yeah, but then everything else is just...
Yep.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
the very nerdy theme of this list was these are all games composed by my favorite video game composer, Yasunori Mitsuda. So
I figured
he did music. Mario Party.
He did, yeah.
Wow. Did he do any other Mario parties?
He did that first one, and I think he composed some other ones as like a consultant. But that first one he was lead composer on.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I was gonna guess music, but I wasn't 100% sure of who the composer was.
That is cool. That's a cool theme. I like that one.
Thanks.
Thank you, Seth.
I'm a big video game music nerd, so.
Yeah.
Good luck. Hey, we are in the works. I don't know if I should announce this yet or not, but it's in the works. We're not ready to like launch anything yet, but just put a bug in everyone's ear. We may be launching a retro music podcast as a sister podcast to Retrologic. Maybe. I'm in talks with my brother and one or two other community members about it, so you might have to come back and do some
all
music
over
talk.
that. All over that.
On that one. We'll have you back on. So y'all can look forward to that some point in the future. It's in the works. Seth, good luck guessing. John and I are going to do our list now. John, why don't you go next? Go ahead.
All right. So mine has a theme as well. It might be a little bit easier to figure out than Seth's. First game on my list is Miracle Warriors for the Sega Master System complete. The second game is Phantasy Star for the Sega Master System complete. The third game is Govelius Valley of Doom for the Sega Master System complete. And the last game is Golden Axe Warrior for the Sega Master System complete.
I think I actually looked some of these up recently, so. All right, so my guess, John, actually, Seth, you go first because I don't want to throw you off.
Okay. Complete shot in the dark, 290.
Really? Yeah. Okay, my guess is 300. I literally wrote that down.
Oh, man.
You're in the ballpark, man.
I'll take it.
All right.
If I'm even close. Go ahead, John.
Total value of my lot is $546.
Oof. Good Lord.
So,
yow.
You know what the theme is, obviously. These are very early Sega Master System RPGs. So Miracle Warriors is $25 complete. Phantasy Star is $174 complete. Way more valuable than the Genesis version.
Man.
I had 80 for that.
Yeah.
That threw me off like crazy.
Govelius is $46 complete.
Hey, I had 50 for that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Golden Axe Warrior is a whopping $301 for a complete
Holy
copy.
moly.
Which is, the only way to play that game other than the Sega collection, you can unlock it, right? I think.
Mm-hmm. Goodness.
But yeah.
Man, I even looked some of these up recently, and I guess I must have. I don't think I looked at the Golden Axe one though. That one's not in my wheelhouse, but that's insane. Good list, dude. Good list.
Yep.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and go next. I've got a theme as well. It's very. You know what? You guys might be able to get this one. It's not super crazy, but it's not something that's immediately evident if you don't know any gaming history. So the first game we have is Mind Quiz on the PSP, complete in box. The second one is Phantasy Star 4 for the Sega Genesis, complete in box.
Great.
Thank you. Sorry, hang on. The third one is Seventh Dragon 3 Code VFD for the Nintendo 3DS, complete in box. And the final one is Skies of Arcadia for the Dreamcast, complete in box.
Oh, I love that game.
So, any guesses on the theme there? Anybody, any idea? Probably not. No.
Well, are they all Sega?
No.
I was
Okay.
gonna say I don't.
They might be, but I'm not sure.
I don't know about
I think
Mind Quiz.
Skies might not be either, actually, now that I think of it.
I think
Yeah, that one
Skies
was-
is.
Skies
Is
of Sega.
Skies Sega?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, anyway, let's do prices, then I'll reveal the theme. Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, I'm going to be taking just a random guess at this one. I'm going to say let's do $380.
Okay.
Dude, I'm impressed with how close I've been to both of you guys. I got $395.
Okay, cool. All right. Actual retail price, we have $415. So you guys are both pretty close.
Yeah.
Good deal. And the theme, I'll do the prices. We have Mind Quiz on the PSP, complete in box, is a whopping $5.37. Fantasy Star 4, the Sega Genesis, complete in box, $217.
Yep.
Oof.
Seventh Dragon 3 for the 3DS is $39. And Skies of Arcadia Dreamcast complete is $153.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's less than I thought.
Yeah.
Man, I had in my head, well, the Dreamcast one isn't as valuable as the GameCube version.
That's okay. That's probably why I had that in my head. I was looking at the GameCube recently.
The
So-
Dreamcast one is more sought after. It's got additional content. It's like kind of
Right.
remastered a little bit. So I would take either to play, honestly. I want to just
think
play
it's-
this game, but
I think it's the other way around. I think the Dreamcast one's the original one, isn't it? Because it would have.
what did I say? I meant the GameCube one. Oh, did I say that? I said it
Yeah.
wrong. The GameCube one is remastered additional content, and there's
Yes.
there's like one side quest that's not in the GameCube version or something like that. There's something off about it, so some people like still really seek after.
I want the original.
Yeah. I want the original. I'd play either, honestly, but I'm not
I
about
just
to
love
pay
the
that price
Dreamcast,
for it.
man.
I almost
love- The Dreamcast.
I almost guessed 420 on that, but I was kind of thrown off by the 3DS game. I didn't really know what to value that at. I knew,
I put it at
knew
It's
that.
50.
RPG. Yeah.
Well, I knew that Phantasy Star 4 and Skies of Arcadia were going to be like over $350 by themselves. So almost.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm just doing some quick math here, and I don't think that 3DS game is going to be worth very much, but I don't know. And then I backed off again.
It's tricky. It's a tricky game.
Yes.
So anyway, my theme, all of these games were either directed or produced by Reiko Kodama. She is she's one of the first noted female artists in the gaming industry. She's also known for her artistic contributions to Master System and Mega Drive games, including Altered Beast and Sonic the Hedgehog. She went on to produce I don't remember which one she produced or which one she directed. She directed Skies of Arcadia for sure, which was like a huge deal. And there's actually a really cool interview with her in a mini documentary on YouTube called A Dreamcast. It's called A Dreamcast. So go look that up. Watch the whole documentary because it's such a great documentary about games being developed for the Dreamcast. It's incredibly well made. So go watch that and enjoy Reiko Kodama's work because she's awesome.
I love that.
Yeah, she was also did all the other Phantasy Star games as well, didn't she? The original ones.
She did art. She did tons of artwork, and then she eventually made it to the level of director and then producer. So
nice.
She may have done a lot of artwork before that, but yeah, she's worked on tons of games, mostly for Sega. But she's a titan in the industry that needs more attention. So there she is.
Love that.
Now, I've got a few weekly topics, but I think what we're going to do...
Do you want to know who won?
Nah. Yeah, go ahead. Who won this thing, John?
You had a total difference of 303. Seth had a total difference of 276. And I had a total difference of 112. So I won, but this is the first time that a guest guessed better than either one of us.
Wow. Okay.
I'm pretty sure a guest has always come in third place every show.
Did I come in third place
today? You came in third place today.
Man.
He beat you out by...
Seth.
I'll take it. I'll absolutely take it.
And he beat you out by $27. So
I'm not even mad about it. That's great.
No,
we finally got a guest to win something. I should send you a prize or something. I'll send you a sticker. Give me your address later. I'll send you a sticker.
Sounds good. I'll take it.
Awesome. Good deal. Great. And if you at home, if you were playing along with us and you beat me, let me know. Shoot me a GIF on Twitter at Retrologic.games, and I will happily concede the win to you, even if you faked it. I don't even care. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we've got some Sega Saturn to talk about, which I'm kind of hype about because I never had one.
Me too.
So come on back, and that'll be some fun. Thanks for sticking with us. So we are going to talk about this day in gaming history. And this day in gaming history is a pretty big deal because 26 years ago, on May 11th, 1995, the Sega Saturn launches to the surprise of many retailers around the country and the world. Which turned out to not be such a great idea, but you live and learn, don't you? I always love that story. Like, they thought it was such a great idea, and everybody was like, "Wait, yeah, but you have to actually like send us consoles to sell. Like, what do you do?"
And Sega never made any other mistakes again.
I wish that was true.
I mean, there's a lot of people that consider this one of the reasons why Dreamcast didn't fare well.
Well, EA just dropped them after this, which is a pretty big deal.
Well, yeah. How am I supposed to develop games for a console that I didn't know about?
Exactly. So we've got the console itself. We've also got a handful of games: Clockwork Knight, Daytona USA, Panzer Dragoon, Virtua Fighter, Saturn Worldwide Soccer, which, I mean, for all intents and purposes, is a solid launch lineup. A wide swath of games. You've got a platformer, you've got an on-rail shooter, a couple of sports games, a fighting game, a really, really wide range, and all pretty solid titles, too. Yeah.
You can still buy Daytona USA at GameStop right now. It's like the only Sega Saturn game they have.
Oh, yeah?
Really?
How much is it going for?
I think it's like $100.
So crazy.
This is the reason why I still today do not own a Sega Saturn. Like, I already have a console that every game costs $100 to buy, and that's the GameCube. So
yeah,
I don't need another one. Like, that would be just disastrous for me. I've passed on 2 now from the same flea market. There's a guy that same booth even. He's had 2 of them now within the last 3 months, and I'm like, it's not even a bad price, but I'm not going to buy one because I can't get games for it.
Here's the thing. I don't want to buy a Saturn and a bunch of games because you're right. It's astronomical. It's absolutely ridiculous trying to get any of the working design games, even Panzer Dragoon, any of the like normal games, Nights into Dreams. It's like insane. But what I would like to do at some point is get a Saturn and either a satiator or another way to load ROMs through the disk drive. And you know, that would, because I really want, what I want is I want like an authentic Saturn experience, like with the controller and the console and all that, and I don't want to have to spend the money on the games that's necessary. And it's like the only time I've ever really like even considered that kind of emulation based solution for playing games long term, because I'm such a proponent for collecting, right? And like history and all that. But Saturn is just ridiculous. Yeah. And at some point I have to say like, okay, I want to experience these games and I want to experience them as close to the way that it originally was intended as I can. And if that means getting an original console and doing a slight mod or getting a cartridge that'll let me play games off an SD card, that's the way I'm going to have to do it, because the library of this console is worth playing, but is it a couple $100,000 worth playing? Like, well, you know what I mean?
And I think that a lot of the library has been, you know, relocated to other consoles by now.
Not a lot of it. Some of it.
Well, I mean, a lot of the games.
Where else can you play the working designs RPGs? Nowhere.
Oh yeah. Well, are they on Steam at all? There's a lot of things
that I'm not sure of.
There's a lot of things that I always think are just lost on certain consoles, and then I just do a quick search on Steam and they somehow have it. It always just amazes me, some of just the random things that they keep on their store. That's, you know, things that are lost.
But I'm
not 100% sure on some of it, but
do a quick search.
I mean, like Panzer Dragoon got a remake that's probably going to play better than the original. I can't say that because I haven't played the original.
Yeah.
But I have to imagine that a remaster is probably going to play better.
I mean, just looking at a couple of these work and designed games, like Lunar is on PlayStation, you know.
Yep.
But stuff like Albert Odyssey, Magic Knight, Raynarth, that stuff was only on Saturn.
Yeah.
You know, just. Yeah, so there are. So you're right. There might be a lot of games available, and they're even remaking the Panzer Dragoon games, you know, which is awesome. And I really hope they do Saga. Super, super hope they do that. I don't even know if they can, but I would love for them to do that. But that's what percent of the library is that? You know, 10%, 20%, even 30% maybe, but still, I would love to purchase the games at a reasonable price. I don't see that being possible. But Seth, you had firsthand experience with the Saturn around the launch window and throughout its time, because you said you had a friend you were pretty close to that you got to play a lot of games from.
Yeah, absolutely. So growing up, I was very much the Nintendo kid. I had all the Nintendo consoles growing up, and Nintendo was kind of my little world and still is. Obviously, but my childhood friend Justin, who was my best friend for a long time, like 2 decades, he kind of got everything else. He would get the Sega stuff. He was the one who got the PlayStation. I eventually got a PS2, but it was all Nintendo until that time for me. But it was kind of nice because I could play this other stuff via him. So I mean, I've got a ton of nostalgia for the Saturn. I mean, you already talked about Knights. I mean, that's an awesome, super unique game that I absolutely love. Another favorite of mine that I don't see a ton of people talk about anymore is Guardian Heroes.
Yep. Yes.
I love those treasure games, man. I love Mischief Makers on N64. Like, those treasure games are so good. Has a really good Saturn. Bomberman is great.
Yes. We love some Bomberman around here.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Us too. Yeah, we talk about Bomberman quite a bit on my show. Darkstalkers, the X-Men fighting games, which were like the precursors to MVC, and yeah, love it, man. It was a really cool. I mean, it kind of brought that arcade experience home, truly.
So what was it? Did he get it at launch? Do you know? Did we around then?
I don't think he got it at launch. He would normally get it a little bit later, not much later, but I would say within the first year he got it.
Mm-hmm. And what was? Let's just, to the best of your memory, because this is like kind of secondhand memories from him.
Yeah,
now.
Exactly.
Why the Saturn, and like what drew him to the Saturn, and what drew you to the Saturn? Like, what was unique about it that you couldn't get from like an N64, PlayStation, Sega CD, whatever?
Like I said, I think there was just kind of like a vibe, I think, to Sega back then that was so different from what I was getting from Nintendo, I guess. Not necessarily better or preferable for me, but it was definitely like very different, more arcadey, more kind of like bombastic 90s in your face, I guess. And I was really attracted to that. But for him, I think he was kind of, we had that rapport where I would get all the Nintendo stuff. He had a few Nintendo things. So he was really interested in basically anything that wasn't Nintendo. So he would kind of be on the lookout for that. And he was also a few years older than me. So he kind of had access to that stuff in a way that I just didn't. So it was cool to go over there and experience that stuff with him. And I will say, though, like once the PS1 came out, it did kind of derail that a bit. But yeah, I was just really attracted to the sort of like vibe of those games back then. I really liked that kind of, again, it's like bringing the arcade home. And I don't think... There may not be a console that does that quite as well as the Saturn. Had some really great games.
Yeah.
I mean, the Dreamcast was very similar. Sega just knew how to bring the arcade experience home. Mm-hmm. Saturn was killing it compared to PlayStation in that front. PlayStation games did not play like the arcade at all.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. And it was kind of a time period where we were making a really awkward transition from 2D to 3D,
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And the way, to the best of my memory, the way that the Saturn handled 3D images made it really difficult to develop for. Something about most 3D development happened in triangles, like on the N64 and the PlayStation. It was all triangles, so you could make a lot of different shapes really easily. But everything kind of had this pointy look to it if it was low poly. And on the Saturn, everything was, I want to say it was hexagons, which is nice for making things look round. But if you want to do like a hard edge or a corner, it makes it a little more complicated.
It's also more taxing on the system. Exactly.
Much more taxing on the system. That's why you didn't get like an overbearing number of really good looking 3D games, Yep. So there were just a lot of really unique things about the Saturn that, for better, for worse, just you couldn't get any elsewhere. Also, because Sega's connection to the arcade was so much stronger than Sony's or Nintendo's, and that even, like John said, that even came through on the Dreamcast. And even Sega, in their marketing, in their branding, kind of turned a corner with the Dreamcast, where they're like, okay, we're not like the badass, bombastic 90s, like in your face system anymore. The console's going to be white. It's going to be friendlier. Even the like opening with the dot, it's much more ethereal and like interesting,
kind of classy,
and less,
yeah,
exactly, yeah, like high end, and but the controller's very like, not like kid friendly, but just kind of like more playful, and the VMU was like a cool toy, so they almost went like a Nintendo route with the Dreamcast. And I think it did them a favor, honestly, because at that point we were all kind of older and grew out of the like, okay, I don't want to see vomit in every commercial now. Like I'm done with that. Yeah.
Totally rad.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, kind of with that same time period where you're seeing that transition. The 90s was a real transitional time for games just in general, because like you said, you had leaving 2D to go to a 3D space. But at the same time, like towards probably the middle to the end of Saturn's life, you had a transition of the arcade leaving. Like it wasn't as important that you're emulating an arcade experience because most people weren't going to arcades to play games. PlayStation had come in and sold, 80 plus million units. There were more games in people's houses than there had ever been.
Your TVs were all in color. They were all much better looking.
Well, so by the time that, Sega's still holding on to that with the Dreamcast, they're like, oh, look, this is still like arcade. And at that time, kids didn't know what arcade was. Kids that were probably under 10 years old that were getting a Dreamcast probably never even been in an arcade.
Are you talking Dreamcast or Saturn right now?
Well, Dreamcast on this one, but towards the end of Saturn, I think that was kind of the thing is you saw that trend line heading downward on arcades, where that was the main thing for Saturn. Like they were pumping out arcade quality games. And I don't think that's like, I think the audience was kind of moving away from that at the time. It wasn't as important.
You can't talk about the Saturn. And I hate to rag on the Saturn so much because it is certainly throughout history deserves to be played. It had really great games that were exclusive that you still can't play anywhere else, and the infrastructure of the system was so unique that deserves to be held up and said this is really awesome and it deserves to be played. But you can't talk about the Saturn without talking about Sega console burnout, which started with the 32X. Yep. Actually, Sega was the CD before the 32X? That's right. Yep. So it started with the Sega CD, then the 32X, and then the Saturn, which I believe came out the same year or the year right after the 32X.
Same time.
And we're
almost.
And so if you're a Sega kid, you're sitting there like, guys, like, I don't have the allowance for this.
Right.
What are you doing? Like $400 for a console? I just bought a 32X. What are you trying to pull?
You have to imagine that at some point, the Saturn was another add-on to that whole conglomeration of Sega products. And then somebody was like, hey, this is not working so well. We don't even have any more real estate on this tower anywhere. We need to make this its own thing. At some point, that had to have been in conversation that was just going to be the next thing. Hey, let's add something on top of the 32X. Let's plug a disk drive on top of that, dude.
Everyone was going 3D, and neither of the systems, the Genesis couldn't do 3D. So,
The one thing that I always appreciate about Sega is they've always been a console that is designed very well for like output. Like they've always been ahead of everyone else as far as technology goes and what they put in. I mean, look at what the Master System was capable of compared to the NES at the time.
Right.
If you look at Phantasy Star as an RPG and what kind of things it was doing at the time compared to Dragon Warrior on the NES, it was like a hands down, the Phantasy Star was a way better looking, crazy thing at the time. And just going forward every time, like Sega's putting out something that's more powerful, and I guess even to the Dreamcast, like it beat everybody out by quite a bit, and it was the same, close to the same power range as a PS2 or a GameCube.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
And I agree with what you were saying earlier too, John, about the disconnect between the kind of arcade experience and the home experience that kids were already sort of gravitating towards. And I think too that a lot of Sega franchises are very Japanese, and I think maybe over here a lot of that might not have played as well perhaps for kids, but I really love a lot of Sega IP still to this day. I mean,
totally.
I really love that stuff. It really speaks to me. But I think kind of, again, trying to put myself in the headspace of like when I was growing up with it, I think that in my circle anyway, I think that I was always kind of, as the Nintendo kid, there was always something that was more powerful that people were kind of like dogging on Nintendo for. And that was kind of like a constant thing. And it still is really to this day. But there's always that. I've always felt like I was having to die on the hill for Nintendo until like recently.
Yeah. I mean, N64 was really the last time that Nintendo cared about being the most powerful console.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah, N64, GameCube, they were both pretty comparable.
Well, the N64 was a lot more powerful than most consoles at that time.
Sure,
it's just very held back by being cartridge based. Whatever. I mean, I'm glad they did, because all my N64 games will work for 100 years, and discs will all be gone. I'll still be playing. I'll still be playing Ogre Battle 64 on my 64. When I'm a grandpa.
And to bounce off what you were saying, Seth, about Japanese culture and games not really being what's desirable here until like if I had to put like a game that like it became mainstream, it had to be Final Fantasy VII.
Sure.
Which is like early to mid PlayStation era.
Right.
So like, the Saturn couldn't do that. And the Sega did their best with their sports games, and Nights into Dreams is nice, but like, what is it? And don't get me wrong, because I'm as much of a fan of Nights as you are, and of the work of Koji Naka, the producer of Sonic the Hedgehog. Love his work, but like, that's not a console seller.
No.
There was never a Sonic game.
Right.
For like, there wasn't like Sonic R, but there wasn't like a Sonic game for Saturn, and that would have sold the console. But
I think the Saturn was like 10 years too early, man. Like it would have really benefited from the Japanese culture saturation that we have nowadays. Like, totally. That's what everybody wants. And like I said, if Saturn had brought half of its Japanese library to the US, localized more things, you might have had a Final Fantasy VII on your hands up front with some of its RPGs. But we'll never know.
There was also, take a known property like Phantasy Star, and put it on this. They didn't do that.
Well, they killed Phantasy Star on the Genesis era. Like, they were like, all right, we completed it, we're done. So,
but
then that's when we started getting all the online stuff, and Saturn wasn't quite ready for online yet. So,
ToeJam and Earl 3 could have been on Saturn. Where's, the games that sold the Sega Genesis? Where were they on Saturn? That to me is the most baffling thing.
Well, those weren't arcade games, and that wasn't where the direction they were heading for.
Exactly.
So
So before we wrap this discussion, I've got a couple of community members who have some firsthand experience with the Saturn that wanted to chime in. I've got Eric Plunk, one of our favorites. He says, while I didn't own a Saturn during its initial run, I did have a cousin that had one. In my mind, no other system of the era did arcade-style experiences better. Playing Daytona USA with the steering wheel and pedals on a huge TV was next to the best thing in the arcade. The Stunner light gun was probably the greatest light gun of all time, and I played plenty of Virtua Cop back then. The word unique always came to mind when reading about games like Nights into Dreams, Panzer Dragoon, and in the pages of EGM. Looking back, these were most likely my first home at 3D gaming experience. My first at-home 3D gaming experiences. Before the N64. As a side note, I got my Saturn of my own in 2002 during my first semester of college when a friend sold it to me for $10.
Wow.
I don't remember what games it came with, but I ended up buying Quake at the time at a game shop around Nashville. Around a year later, I gave the system to another friend for Christmas. A couple of months ago, that friend moved back to the area, said he still had the Saturn. Next time I visit him, I'll get to see that system for the first time in almost 20 years.
Oh, how cool is that?
It's crazy.
$10, man.
If he hasn't updated the battery on it, it's probably going to be due.
I guarantee you that thing's dead.
Oh yeah,
they don't last that long anyway. Awesome story, Eric. Thanks for that. We've also have a brand new Discord member who chimed in. His name's Grim Leaper 44. It's a mouthful. Welcome, Grim Leaper. Thanks for joining in the Discord. And he says, I remember going to Toys R Us, ready to pick up the next system after my SNES. I played Super Mario 64 at the kiosk, and honestly, I didn't get it. I don't relate to that experience, by the way, but I totally respect.
Neither do I.
Totally respect your experience, Grim Reaper. There was so much open space, and I thought the controller was ridiculous. So I saw the Saturn. It came with 3 games, so that's what I bought. I was the only one of my friends with a Saturn, but I always enjoyed a good solo campaign and had a lot of fun with Virtua Cop, Daytona, and Virtua Fighter 2. I picked up Doom, which I already had on the PC and SNES, but what the hell? There was a flaming skull on the cover. I love that part.
Love that.
Resident Evil, both of which were awesome. I also had Worldwide Soccer, which I loved despite not being a soccer fan. I think the only other game I had was Tony Hawk. Eventually the new game stopped coming and I bought an N64 off someone at school. Never looked back. And I think later we discovered that the Tony Hawk game may have been
Dreamcast,
an N64 or Dreamcast game. Yep. But because that never came to Saturn. But
right.
It's really great to hear firsthand from someone who literally walked into a Toys R Us and said, Mario, that's not for me. I want the Saturn with 3 games. Which, totally makes sense to me. Like, I'm going to get an N64 and it doesn't even come with a game and the controller's weird.
Right.
Well, I love, too, that he mentions Virtual Fighter because, I can't think of a 90s arcade without playing Virtual Fighter.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad that both him and Eric mentioned Virtua Cop. I totally forgot to mention that. Those games
that was a system
awesome.
seller. Yeah.
Yep.
I still love me some Virtua Cop. That's awesome.
And
thanks for the story.
Oh, sorry.
Grim Leaper, thanks for the story. And then we're going to just final thoughts on the Saturn before we got to move on to the next thingy. Go ahead, John.
Seth can go
I
first.
I meant Seth. I meant Seth. There's too many people on the podcast. What's going on?
I know, right? It's a special little system. Again, I mean, they definitely fumbled the ball, a little bit with it, and we've talked about that. But it's got its place in history, and we got to respect it, for what it is, and some great games certainly on there. And like I said, I've got some nostalgia for it, and I definitely. I mean, like you've already touched on, Dan, it sure would be nice if more of those games were widely available because there's some real gems on there that it would be great for more people to have the ability to play. And maybe we'll start to see more of that, in the coming years. But yeah, I mean, you got to respect the Saturn, man.
Got to respect the Saturn.
I think we're doing a Saturn collection.
I was just going to say, I would easily spend $60 on a Saturn collection.
Sure. Definitely.
Without thinking.
I mean, they've redone the Genesis collection 400 times.
Every generation.
Every generation gets a new Sega Genesis collection.
They had a Sega Genesis collection on the Sega Genesis. What are you doing?
Yeah, the 6-pack.
Yeah.
I have it.
We talk about that all the time, man. It's how many times can you release a Sega Genesis collection?
As many times as Sega can and wants to and will.
It's just like Mario. The original NES games. They're on everything. You can play them in
Although
Nintendo
I will say,
console.
The current iteration is solid.
Oh, yeah. It's
solid
nice.
Selection. Love it. Good deal. And John, final thoughts on the Saturn?
I just wish I would, like you, I wish I had the original experience. Because like I said, I never even got to play one as a kid in that time period. I think I had a couple friends that had PlayStations, and I had an N64, so I totally missed on the Saturn altogether. And there was way too many cool games that I, probably couldn't even tell you what they are because, it seems like Saturn wasn't even really being covered in game magazines all that much. All that stuff was almost non-existent at the time. I mean, it was probably being talked about in like there was probably a Saturn exclusive magazine that only talked about Saturn, but I don't even really remember seeing Saturn brought up all that much in like EGM or any of the magazines I was reading that was covering everybody. So
yeah,
it's just crazy. It's like it was just a gap in time that doesn't get brought up that often.
It's a fever dream.
really was for some of us. I remember vividly. I mean, I was in Toys R Us all the time. I would just go to Toys R Us to just goof around, as a kid, play a game, whatever. Stare at the wall of games and flip the covers to see the back of the game cartridge, the back of the game box. And I have vivid memories of seeing the Saturn kiosk, especially when Knights came out. And that was kind of like a huge deal for Saturn because it came with the 3D controller, which had the like big circle thumbstick.
Yes.
It resembles a Dreamcast controller like to a T.
Definitely influenced it.
And I remember playing it and totally getting it. Like, oh, like this is super cool. Like it's fast paced. It's fun. It's frenetic, and the controller is really cool. But it was just like, I'm not gonna buy another console. Like I have a Super Nintendo. I already know I'm getting an N64. Like it's just not something that I'm gonna spend money on. Like I'm gonna ask for an N64 because that's what I had. And Sega people were like, oh, we're going PlayStation. Like there's no Sonic. I'm going PlayStation. So it just seemed like Sega couldn't catch a break, and they kind of did it to themselves with the whole like Sega Genesis add-on thing, Burn, and the lack of like a character platformer or like a character game to launch with. But I guess PlayStation didn't like have that per se, but
yeah.
I think that the Saturn could have, as we were saying, what could have saved the Saturn is if it had focused less on recreating the arcade experience. As cool as that is, they needed to start focusing more on at-home experiences, first-player experiences, mascot experiences. And I think had they done Saturn versions, like sequel versions of their greatest hit games from the Genesis, they probably could have grabbed a lot more of those fans back. So that's what I'll say. Yeah. I'll say, man, a Saturn version of ToeJam and Earl, again, would have been super cool.
Well, and I think it suffered very similar fate of the N64, where it just didn't generate a whole lot of third-party games. I don't know if it was a same scenario where it was like a nightmare to develop for. So, I mean, PlayStation made it so easy. Like there's so many games on the original PlayStation. It's because it was so easy to develop for that everybody was just flocking over to it. Where the N64 was like a complicated mess that nobody wanted to touch except for Nintendo. So I don't know that if Saturn was in that same boat, but I know that if you look at the majority of like great Saturn games, they're almost all Sega, like first party produced.
It was
similar to Nintendo.
To my knowledge, it was kind of a nightmare to develop for. And if you look at both Sega, the Saturn, and the N64, the N64 survived on first party software almost exclusively.
Yeah,
and
100%.
Sega couldn't do that.
No, they weren't getting.
They don't have the IP.
Their IP like Nintendo was,
Exactly. And that's the thing. That's my point. They could have done that.
Could have, yeah.
Because they had the Genesis games.
Yeah, they just dropped all their first party IP that they were running with for the first, 10 years of their life.
So crazy. I mean, they did a little, anyway.
And like I said, I was in a small town, so I didn't even have Toys R Us to look at all these. My Walmart had like a small, like 4 or 5 game section in the bottom corner of the PlayStation window that had Saturn games. And then it was just PlayStation and Nintendo had like showcases. So I had even less exposure like on a marketing front, actual physically in a store. So like I said, I don't think they were getting a whole lot of coverage.
No, certainly not. And we're going to end our coverage right here. And this won't be the last time we talk about the Saturn, because it's certainly in the zeitgeist. It's in my mind. It's heavy in my heart. And it's definitely something I want to go back to and experience. So stay tuned for that. Next up, we've got a little bit of news to talk about. Some new stuff. We don't just talk about old stuff here at Retrologic, Seth. I know that's what you were thinking, but let me correct you on that. There's new stuff happening. So, the former Metroid Prime lead designer has been targeted with abusive messages. Why, you ask? Well, he came out with some statements earlier this week about how he doesn't think that a Metroid Prime trilogy would be like an easy port. He's basically saying it would require a lot of work to develop because of just the way that those games are, and they don't really have the toolkits for that anymore. So, and that caused a lot of anger with the Metroid fan base and with the Nintendo fan base at large. And so he got some threatening messages, which is really uncalled for and awful. And if you're within earshot of my voice, please don't do that.
No.
Please do not. Please do not be toxic.
You're not
gonna. Yep. You're not gonna manifest the game you want to exist by doing that. And it is okay. You know what? First of all, it's okay to be upset. If you're upset by the fact that the developer of Metroid Prime says that the trilogy port would be difficult, that's a valid feeling, and I totally understand it. A, doesn't mean it's not happening, because they certainly put the game on Wii U, didn't they? B, you are allowed to be as toxic as you want to. I'll just say that. You're allowed to do it. Please don't, but you're allowed to. C, don't send threatening messages to the person saying it. That's 100% uncalled for, and I will say that up and down all day long, no matter who it is. So, do I hope Metroid Prime Trilogy happens?
Yeah, you can't get upset about a game that you don't know that exists. Nintendo hasn't even said that they are working on this. So
no.
I mean, right now it's all just been speculation from the start.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's horrible, man. I mean, it's totally uncalled for, and there's never a good, excuse for it. We see this in all kinds of fan communities, just spewing vitriol over a totally innocuous comment. By the way, this dude hasn't, worked at Retro in over a decade, and
seriously,
he was just saying his opinion on the matter, and then the internet just sort of burned him at the stake, and it's not fair. And it sounds like. And we've heard a lot of industry insiders, people like Imran Khan and stuff have said that the game has been done. The Switch port of the game has been done, and Nintendo's sitting on it for the right moment. So that may be what's happening. But then also, for folks who are worried that this might mean that it's impossible to port the game or whatever, look what they're doing with Skyward Sword. We thought that was impossible. They've totally made these games work that are so where motion controls and stuff on the Wii were super ingratiated into it. They've found solutions for it. So I don't think, I don't think it's totally off the table. He was literally just saying this is going to be tough.
Yeah. And here's the thing. What was Retro even doing before they were given Metroid Prime 4? If all, let's say all the rumors are true, and Nintendo has the game ready, it may have been done when Hudson saw it. Was it Hudson who was working on it before that?
Metroid Prime 4?
Yeah, who was working on Metroid Prime 4? Was it Tecmo?
I think it was...
Wasn't
Bandai, it Team Ninja?
No. It was some big... Namco. It was Namco, right?
It was Namco. Yes,
Bandai Namco.
It was.
When they were working on Metroid Prime 4... Retro Studios could have been working on the trilogy so they could release either simultaneously or as a lead up. And now it all got thrown out the window. Like they were like, maybe Nintendo was like, man, you guys did such a great job making these games look HD. Why don't you just make Metroid Prime 4? And Retro was like, yes, please, because we love these games. And also, I'm rooting for my hometown homies over here, Retro Studios in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
They work their butts off. They love what they do.
I find it really hard to believe that Nintendo got rid of development kits for anything. Like, they don't seem like the kind of people that gets rid of anything. Like, it's
They're
all
obsessed
tucked
with
away
history.
somewhere. Yeah. Well, they're so ingrained in like protecting their IP and just different things like that. I have a hard time believing that they just lost these things.
And even so, the
they're not
Wii U ports are not that old.
No, they're not. Well, I mean, the Wii port for the trilogy was originally on the Wii, which still wasn't all that long ago.
Yeah.
And we have plenty of other Wii games or Wii U games that have made it over to the Switch. So I don't think it would be that difficult to say that. I mean, based on the claims that these are remastered in HD, that might be what he's talking about. They might not be coming over as HD ports. It might just be like a straight port from the Wii. Kind of like how we got on the Wii U. That could be what he's talking about.
At the very least, they're using whatever AI up-resing software they had for the Mario 3D trilogy. At the very least, because you're not going to put a non-HD game.
Or, well,
like
you know what I mean. It's not it's not a remake of it. Like, it's going to be a port over that's up-res to a higher resolution than what we currently got.
Sure.
Like what they're doing with Skyward Sword, basically.
Basically, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing. So I just wanted to say that. Please don't do that. Just be nice.
Come on, guys.
Don't be sour.
Okay. You're better. Listen, you're better than this.
Just play some Pokemon Snap and chill out.
Just,
It's video games, guys.
Yeah.
This next piece, it's just video games. Go
it's
outside.
Video games.
This last piece of news we've got just dropped today. I think it was today or yesterday. LucasArts Classics Zombies Ate My Neighbors and Ghoul Patrol. Is that what it is?
Yep.
I don't even know what
Ghoul
the second
Patrol
one was. They're coming. They're coming to consoles and PC in June. So soon, you guys, we're going to get to play them. So good. And these are oops. Yeah, they are there's achievements, there's a whole gallery of stuff. They look up-resed. This is the real deal. It's only $14.99.
Wow. That's cool.
The games are bundled together $14.99. So you need to buy these because these games are excellent.
Yeah, you're definitely not going to buy a SNES version of Zombies Ate My Neighbors for $14.99.
No, it's about a $50 cartridge now.
Yeah.
And then I don't even know what Ghoul Patrol is. That game's got to be.
Oh, I was actually looking at that. Josh from Limited Run Games was talking about that. Ghoul Patrol is like 150 plus.
Yeah,
for that original card.
Freaking insane.
And actually, speaking of LRG, they have kind of teased that they're going to be doing a physical of this eventually. They were sort of teasing that when they announced their E3 plans. So that might be a thing.
Awesome.
I hope we get another LRG roadmap. Like, that was really fantastic last year. They're like, hey, these are all coming. We don't have like concrete dates, but this, because I've like been planning for like almost every little thing that I want that they're going to put out and like put back for it. It's been very nice.
They know what they're doing over there, man.
Yeah.
Good. Last but not least, Mass Effect Legendary Edition launches this week on Friday. Anybody picking that up?
I want to. I love those games so much. It's just like I'm looking for those extra hours of the day, man.
Yeah.
I want to play it again.
Yeah,
well,
and those are not short games.
On the Switch.
No.
My
Me
thing
too.
is, I just got the trilogy on Xbox 360 for like dirt cheap, and I'm like, what did you add to these? What do I need? Just
the original games are pretty solid. The original trilogy, yeah,
and so they're in HD. So what did you even do?
Yeah, I was looking at
more HD them.
Oh, they're HDer.
Yes, HD.
Well, the first game, they've done quite a bit of work to, it sounds like, where they've made the gameplay more in line with what we saw in 2 and 3. The first game's gameplay, the shooting's really weird and soft, and you know, they've made it feel more like a proper third-person shooter. And
it definitely wasn't the focus on the first game.
No, yeah, definitely not. And they've tweaked like things like the way the Mako drove and stuff like that. You know, they've changed the way that feels. Some pretty interesting little changes there. Nothing like groundbreaking, but you know, some quality of life stuff, which is what you want.
I think I would like to compare it to Naughty Dog's re-releasing the Uncharted series.
Sure,
on the PS4, because the first Uncharted game suffered very similar problems where the shooting was not fantastic. It was definitely more of a, like, they were leaning towards, they wanted to just solve more puzzles and things, and the shooting was just kind of how you move along through the game. Mass Effect, same thing. Second, third games, way better shooters.
100%. Yep.
Sweet. Well, it sounds like they did more to it than I was making fun of them for, so good on them. Good deal. Well, we've got some community content to burn through before we call it quits tonight, gentlemen. So first of all, we've got I've been talking about this for a while, but everybody's been playing Plock. So now that Plock is done for now, we'll be back. Plock will be back. We're all plocked out for now, but we'll come back.
Plock never truly dies.
Oh, no.
He just always comes back. Limbs and stuff, and they come back.
He just boomerangs right back. But what we're going to talk about now is some Joe and Mac 2. We've got a live community podcast recording scheduled for Wednesday, May 26th at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you have been playing Joe and Mac 2, please jump on into that. I will be putting up a registration form, Google form that you can fill out in the Nintendo Dad's Discord and the Retrologic Discord. Please only fill it out once. Just pick one and fill it out. If you have not been playing Joe and Mac 2, you've got plenty of time. You've got like a week and a half, 2 weeks practically, to go play some Joe and Mac 2. Enjoy it. It's 2-player co-op, same screen simultaneously. And it's so fun. Go play it online on your Switch with a friend. It's incredibly fun. It reminds you of Donkey Kong Country.
Can Joe pick up Mac?
Oh, I don't know. We'll have to do an experiment.
That's a good question.
Yeah, we'll do an experiment.
I've been meaning to, like, this one is just killing me because I've been meaning to play it. It's right there, like I have it. And I just have not had time, and like the little bit of time I do have, like I have not been thinking about playing the Joe. I even said I was going to last time, and I had zero time on my business trip to even pick it up after it was all said and done. So I definitely want to play it.
Highly recommend it because it is one of the best platformers on the Super Nintendo. It's better than the first one. I mean, and the cartridge is really expensive, so it's worthwhile to play it just to say, oh, yeah, I'll play Joe and Mac 2 because awesome.
I just know they added like that feature where Donkey Kong could grab Diddy in the second Donkey Kong Country. It's like, could Joe grab Mac and like throw him?
I actually don't know. We didn't try any of that. I'm not sure. But so there's that. You can also chat about it in either of the Retrologic, in the Nintendo Dad's Retrologic channel, or in our own Discord. You can chat about it and just find someone to do 2-player co-op with. Good deal. So finally, we have our community question of the week. This week, our question comes from LDP, good old Liam from the Discord. He says, Plock Talk has me thinking about the amount of time and effort it takes to get good, quote unquote, in some games, and how many retro games nearly demand it. Given all of our current situations, that isn't really possible because of the time constraints. But is there one retro game in particular that sticks in your mind as worth going back to and dedicating that time for? He mentions Air Fortress by HAL. Don't know what it is, but that's his recommendation. Quality game that's worth getting good at. I have a couple of other responses from community members, so I'll go through these, then we can give our responses. We've got Eric Plunk, who says, Castlevania requires you to get good, and its sequels can be super frustrating at times, but for me, it's totally worth it for that sense of accomplishment. After going through a difficult spot, once that muscle memory clicks in after a while, it's just magic. Chris HL94 says, after my community crossplay experience, I would have to say A Link to the Past. He's been having a bit of trouble with that game, but he's now decided that it's an excellent, excellent game. And I still have never played it. So,
oh, wow.
There's that.
Yeah,
yep.
That's
my
going
claim
to be
to shame.
It's going to be one of your next ones to play here shortly. We got.
Oh yeah,
we got to fix.
Got to do it, man.
Next time we do crossplay, we'll do that for sure. Flightsy, old Philip in the Discord says, for simply tricky games, I've done Celeste and Cuphead. These games are hard, but they're also games built around being hard, so they're designed to keep the player engaged even through frustration. This is done like how in Celeste there's a checkpoint in every room and unlimited lives. I'm going to give you the abridged version of Flightsy's message because it was really long and it's all good stuff. But I'm just going to give a little shorter version of it. But there are retro games I have done this with, notably Kirby's Dream Land, 1 Vitality, and 1 Life. Oh, man. Beating Kirby's Dream Land with 1 Vitality and 1 Life. And Joe and Mac 2. Interestingly, both of these games, I had external reasons to play them. I was doing Kirby's Dream Land in my quest to 100% every Kirby game. I was doing Joe and Mac 2 for the Retro Rewind. Thank you for playing that, Philip. I think this external reason helped push me to overcome challenges I wouldn't have otherwise. Several times during Kirby's Dream Land, I wasn't sure I could physically do it. I have felt that way about games. 100%ing a game is my preferred way to play a game. I love experiencing everything in a game that it has to offer. That being said, 100%ing games takes a lot of time that I don't really have anymore, and these external reasons let me justify taking that time. Well, Philip, we are proud to be your external reason for playing Joe and Mac 2. Third Strongest Mole says, Mega Man X. I sometimes forget how hard it is when you haven't played it 200 times. That dude is a Mega Man X fanatic. A relatively new member of the community, Infinite Blue, says, F-Zero GX is definitely this game for me. It's a very daunting game, but at first, but its gameplay rewards dedication in spades. There's really nothing else quite like it after you get good. It's so satisfying to revisit the lower difficulties that once seemed impossible, only to wipe the floor with them. And it's all organic. No stats buff, no experience gains or upgrades. It's raw player skill gained over time. Also, shout out to God Hand on PS2. I have no idea what that is. But
wow. Oh, dude, God Hand's awesome.
Oh, yeah? Tell me about God Hand.
God Hand's this really cool beat-em-up game by Clover Studio that end up doing like Okami and Beautiful Joe and stuff, and eventually became platinum. And that's a Shinji Mikami game, and it's so just this like over-the-top like beat-em-up game. It's really, really cool if you can find that for PS2.
Awesome.
It's probably the only other game that's over $50.
He compares that to F-Zero in the way that like you get good at it and it becomes more and more fun. I totally agree with his F-Zero GX comparison.
It's a great
because you play that game at first and you're like, I suck. Like, what is wrong with me? You know, but you just kind of get into the zone with GX where you sort of read the tracks and you read the players and you kind of like know what's coming. It's kind of surreal actually, but I totally agree with that GX comment. So what about you guys? A retro game that you love, that is really hard, that you feel is just so worth dedicating the time to get good at? Nick, give me one each. What do you think?
For me, my answer to this, and Sam touched on it a little bit with Mega Man, but just Mega Man as a generalization, I think is a really great example of this, where people, I remember especially when like Mega Man 10 and 9 and 10 were coming out, people, oh, these games are so hard. And it's like, not really. Like it requires you to learn it, like a lot of these old school games did. It requires you to understand its language. And it requires you to get a feel for it, learn the level layouts in a way that a lot of, I guess, modern games aren't very conducive to. But the Mega Man series is really great at, like, once you get into that flow state, man, once you really understand the way these games feel and the way the movement and the shooting and the enemies and level design is, I mean, there's nothing quite like it. I love going back through a Mega Man game. It's like putting on an old leather jacket or something like that, like it's just so comfy, and there's like a muscle memory. Like, I don't think I'll ever forget how to play a Mega Man game, that once you learn it, once you get good at it, there's nothing quite like it.
When I was first playing NES games, I think my problem with Mega Man was that Mario exists. Where
Sure.
You can make all kinds of mistakes in Mario, and you can usually recover pretty well from them if mushrooms and just being able to jump backwards and control your jump.
Shorter.
And yeah. So going into Mega Man and it's not a platformer. It's a run and gun. So the jumping is not as fine tuned, but not in a way that's like it was a mistake. It's like, no, the game's built for the way that you jump in Mega Man.
Yes.
You just have to learn it. And so you're totally right. And I didn't even get to appreciate Mega Man until relatively recently. In December, I think we did a whole month of Mega Man games. Yep. And that's when I really decided, like, okay, with the modern conveniences of like rewind and save states, these games became much more fun to me.
Sure.
And I got to understand why Mega Man is so great. So that's a really good example for sure, Seth. John, do you have an answer for us?
It's something that I didn't get good at this game anytime, recently, but the one that I probably sunk the most time in to get good at was Battletoads on the NES. Like, I remember dissecting that game because the gameplay is so different between certain levels. Like, you would get, like, my cousin and I would play this multiplayer, and we would get to a certain level in the game, and it's like, okay, now you gotta learn how to play this level. Now you gotta learn how to play this level. Now you gotta memorize all the movements of the speeder bike in order to get through that level. And it was just something like where we just had to sit down and really learn every little angle of the game. And I can't remember another game where I really put that kind of time into it to get good, because it was skill based. There's lots of RPGs I put tons of time in because you're grinding or doing things of that nature, which is the majority of the games I like to play. But as far as like skill based games, that's the one I can really think of as a kid that I had to get good to advance in. There's no other way to get to those other levels unless you beat them.
That's such a good one. Yeah.
I was going to shout out the those Disney platformers like Lion King, Aladdin and stuff. Those games are great, but so hard.
No, not worth it. Just
you don't think so?
No, not gonna. I have trauma from that Lion King game, I'll tell you.
The giraffe level.
Yeah, I just can't wait to be king level.
Yep.
No, never ever.
It would have been easier if they would have made it like rhythm, like if the jumps and stuff were timed with the music, like you could get a rhythm going with it. But no, it's just very difficult.
Got to keep those rentals going, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you, there's been a lot of experiences recently that, especially with the crossplay that we do on the podcast, where John and I kind of challenge each other to play a game, where Philip is totally right. Like, without those external sources, I probably would have given up. And I think my most recent example, or like the one that sticks out in my mind as like the best experience, is Super Metroid.
Oh, yeah.
Because that game is... I'm mad at myself for never playing it before this year. Because it is... After playing it one time all the way through, just getting to the end, right? I didn't do anything special. I just was like, I'm going to beat it. It's always going to be in my top 10 games of all time. Always now. And this is 20 years, maybe plus, removed from its release. Like, how do you, 25 plus years removed from its release? And there's parts of that game that are throw the controller against the wall, you know?
Yep.
But really, it's not the same kind of thing as like a Mega Man or or like an F-Zero, because it's a lot more like an RPG where there are things that you can do to make the experience easier for yourself. You can explore more and find more energy tanks. You can find more missiles, super missiles, that kind of thing. You can use the tools to your advantage to make the experience easier, but that requires time, which is, and there's still an element of combat and like reaction time to it. So it's almost like the best of both worlds in that way, where it does require you to get good, but you can make the choice to like make it a little easier on yourself by doing other things. So it's, it's kind of both, but that would be probably my choice, just because it's such a recent and vivid example for me. And the experience of going through the story of that game makes it 1,000% worth it. No regrets whatsoever getting past those hard parts.
I think you were too busy playing Donkey Kong Country to play any other Super Nintendo games.
I love me some Donkey Kong Country.
Me too.
I feel like I have the same experience with Sam, where like he doesn't think Mega Man X is hard. And like I could sit down and probably beat all of Donkey Kong Country in 2 hours or so, if like I did it last year at some point. Is that game hard?
Right. There are people who would say so, right? And I mean,
that's
I
so maybe that's
you
my
to do
choice.
the third game in 2 hours.
No, the second and third game is a whole other level, and I didn't play near those games nearly as much. But I definitely do have to do that at some point. So, what a show, guys! We're at an hour and 45-ish minutes. That's long for our show. We try to keep it short and snappy around here, but I just want to hear more of Seth's sultry tones.
I was gonna say I can talk, man. I can talk.
No, that's what we like. That's why we have guests. So we keep it shake it up around here a little bit. So, Seth, why don't you close us out why don't you tell us where people can find you and your podcast? And I can't wait to be a guest this week. That's going to be super fun to talk some Pokemon Snap with you. So tell us where they can find you.
Yeah, I can't wait either. It's going to be a blast. You guys can find us at All In Podcast on social media. Facebook and Twitter are our big ones. You can follow me at $2 Hero on Twitter. And yeah, we post our episodes every Saturday. Again, we've got Dan on this week. We're going to be having some Sean Capri sweet hangs, and we're going to be talking Pokemon Snap, and as well as a ton of other stuff on this week's show. So can't wait for that. And we have a ton of fun, man. So check us out.
Awesome. John, do you have anything else you want to talk about before we go, or say?
No, I think we've hit a lot of things on this show.
Good.
So,
well, if John's happy, then I'm happy. That's how we end it.
If you like it, I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Well, thanks for listening to the Retrologic podcast. We are proudly part of the Nintendo Dads family of podcasts. If you like what you hear, you can check me out on Twitter and Instagram at Retrologic.games. You're also so welcome to jump into our friendly and 100% non-toxic Discord community. We are all about welcoming new people into the fray, turning them into collectors, and then sucking them dry. All their money just goes to retro.
Can confirm. Can confirm.
Exactly. We have a victim right here. No, but if you just love games, you want to chat about them, you want to see pictures of people's cool collections, you just want a place to hang out that's not real annoying and full of bad people. We are, we keep it clean, we keep it non-toxic, and we keep it positive. So come hang out. You can find the link to that in my Twitter bio, and you can find all the Retrologic things, the store, the Discord, the Twitter, the Instagram, the new merch store that's coming up soon,
the deals,
with maybe some new t-shirts that just showed up in my doorstep that I'm really excited about.
I can't wait for that.
Let me tell you first, before I close, let me tell you a little bit about these t-shirts. Fair trade. The cotton is from Haiti. Everything else is done in the US. They are printed on tri-blend fabric. They're super soft. It's screen printed, so it's not going to fade. and I've got 30 of them. They're all different sizes, and I am so hyped for these freaking shirts, you guys. I'm gonna ship them out to you guys. They're gonna be $25 a pop, free shipping, because I love you. This is first run Retrologic shirts. They're probably going to go up in price after this run is done, because the price is I just wanted to like give them to like my biggest fans for a good price. So thank you guys for that. You can find that merch store at Retrologic.games once it's up, which should be this week or next week, hopefully soon. And that's it. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you guys next week.
Bye now.
Bye.